Welcome to CyberSecurity Heroes, an IRONSCALES podcast about you, the heroes of cybersecurity. You're about to hear and learn practical and experiential knowledge in our conversations with security leaders and practitioners and other influential InfoSec stars, so we can become more cyber resilient and safer together. CyberSecurity Heroes is brought to you by IRONSCALES, the most powerfully simple email security platform. And I'm your host, Brendan Rudd. And now, let's get into the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to CyberSecurity Heroes. This is going to be a short episode to cover some of the news about the Okta breach. I'll be covering a couple of articles, one from CNN and ZDNet, and then I'll pass it over to my colleague Steven to give us some of his tips and advice on what we can do. As mentioned in some of the reporting, it's not clear if this is an ongoing attack or if it's been and gone. So either way, we would recommend being vigilant just to be on the safe side. So apparently, according to a CNN article, Okta is investigating reports of a possible digital breach. The software company said early Tuesday, Okta is aware of the reports and is currently investigating. Okta spokesperson Chris Hollis told CNN in a statement, "We will provide updates as more information becomes available." The company's software allows businesses to authenticate the identity of their customers and employees. Okta has more than 15,000 customers, according to its website. Apparently, shares of Okta were down nearly 8% in pre-market trading on Tuesday. Reuters first reported that Okta was looking into reports of a possible digital breach after a hacking group known as LAPSUS claimed responsibility for the incident and published screenshots claiming access to an Okta internal administrative account and the firm's Slack channel. LAPSUS is a mysterious hacking group that emerged in December, claimed on the messaging app Telegram that it did not steal any databases from Okta itself, but that our focus was only on Okta customers. Okta CEO Todd McKinnon tweeted early Tuesday morning that the firm believes those screenshots are related to a security incident in January that was contained. In late January 2022, Okta detected an attempt to compromise the account of a third-party customer, support engineer working for one of our sub-processors, McKinnon tweeted, referring to a subcontractor that works with Okta. The matter was investigated and contained by the sub-processor. LAPSUS has claimed to have stolen data from several high-profile corporate victims since December. The group began by focusing on Latin American victims, and some security researchers suspect the group is based in Latin America. But much about the group is a mystery. There is no evidence that the hackers have used ransomware to try and extort the victims, according to a March 17th analysis by cybersecurity firm Digital Shadows. The group appears to have tried to recruit rogue employees at companies who would be willing to cough up passwords to help with the hacks, Digital Shadows analysts said. LAPSUS has gone out of its way on its Telegram channel to emphasize that it is not state-sponsored and that its only goal is money. So this is all according to a CNN report that came out today. There was another one by ZDNet. Maybe we'll just review that one for a second as well. So I'm not going to go into the top half of the ZDNet article, but they talk a little bit more about the LAPSUS hacking group, and recent breaches connected to the group include those experienced by Samsung, Nvidia, and Ubisoft. On Sunday, a screenshot was shared that suggested an alleged Microsoft breach may have taken place potentially via an Azure DevOps account, although the post has since been deleted. Microsoft is investigating. How the group managed to breach these targets has never fully been clear to the public. If true, the breach at Okta may explain how LAPSUS has been able to achieve its recent string of success. And now I will pass it over to Stephen. Hey, Stephen, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Brendan. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks. And I wish it was under better circumstances, but we appreciate your time. And I would like to get your opinion and recommendations based on some of the intel that we've had presented to us by all the media outlets. And just before we hopped on this call, we got notification from the Okta Chief Security Officer, David Bradbury. There was a long period of silence where even on their community, there was no information about this potential breach. But they've come out and said, and this is on their blog, the Okta service has not been breached and remains fully operational. There are no corrective actions that need to be taken by our customers. In January of 2022, Okta detected an unsuccessful attempt to compromise the account of a customer support engineer working for a third-party provider. I'm not going to go into the entire press release, but having said all that, it still makes sense to be on the safe side.
Yeah, this news to me doesn't change the calculus very much. If you're not doing like good operational behavior, to start doing it now. Collecting logs, looking through those logs, knowing what to look for, understanding the implications of turning a service on or off like this. So I don't think it really changes it, how aggressively you're going to act and how aggressively you're going to pursue it. It's going to be based on the environment, and it's going to be a case-by-case basis thing. I think there's no wrong answer as far as be a little bit more diligent on what you're collecting and how you're inspecting it on a regular basis. And if anything, if there people weren't collecting Okta logs, they probably are now, or thinking about how they can. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I think we're always dealing with some breach, potential breach. Maybe it was a breach, maybe it wasn't. We're always in that kind of mode. So from a security posture standpoint, I don't think much changes, other than it's not like a burning P1, not yet, at least. Maybe more information will come out. I don't know. But yeah, it doesn't really change much for me.
Yeah, and to your point, like this is just another wake-up call, so hopefully some good came out of it.
Yeah. If it's not this, it'll be something else. But your IAM provider, critical, still looking for account takeovers, looking for these types of things. Make sure you have some check and balance on that tool as well. So yeah, nothing major to change or redact or anything like that. The commentary is still the same, whether or not we're under kind of a huge red alert or not, for lack of a better term.
Awesome. Well, thanks. Let's segue into some of the recommendations.
Well, thank you. So I don't think the case is closed. This group has been active lately with Microsoft. There's some more compelling things, and also with NVIDIA. They were also, like the NVIDIA one, I think, if I remember correctly, turned into something a bit more serious. So we'll see. But, what do we do now? Like, what kind of problems? Like, in an enterprise environment, for me, it becomes very, very difficult, almost impossible, right? Let's shut off Okta. Well, what does that mean? It means I have to create, I don't even know. If I'm in an enterprise, it's somewhere between 10 and 50 applications that I'm now having to decouple, give people logins, or maybe they have logins, but they don't even know what those emails or user IDs are. And then I have to give them a password for that. Maybe there's a MFA client that now they have to enroll with, and also I have to give them some instructions, right? So that's just one application. Multiply that by however many applications people have apportioned. To do that in a quick, short way is not impossible, but it's really difficult. At least the organizations that I've run into and been part of, it's a mountain of work, because Okta or any IAM provider becomes that central point, pivot point around the environment, so people aren't managing all this other complexity. As far as what can we do about it today, if you don't already have good logging, right? I think that'd be my first step. is to, if you're not consuming the Okta logs, you're not parsing them, no one's looking at them, now's a great time to start. If you already have them, now kind of is the time to kind of take a look for specific items. So for me, what do I look for? I'm looking for kind of new accounts, first off, missing accounts or new accounts, right? So if I had an account that didn't exist before or did exist and is gone, right? Maybe I'm trying to shift some licenses or do something to get a more permanent kind of control in the environment. Looking for any accounts with high privileges or recently given high privileges, super user type accounts. I think you're looking for anything with certainly that has disabled MFA, unless that's a default policy, which I probably wouldn't recommend to really any environment. If you've already got an SSO and you've gone through the pain of MFA, like you should keep that. So it should be anomalies that are standing out. But unless you've disabled M&A for everybody, MFA for everyone, I think within those logs, you're going to be looking for suspicious logins, right? Indicators of compromise. So
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no problem.
I think it's important to remind our audience that this supposedly happened in January 22nd, around this time. The news came out yesterday, but according to the reports, it may have been as early as January. So you probably need to go back to the beginning of the year to start going over those logs, as you say.
Yeah, probably that 60 or even 90-day time frame if you're at, so we're saying late January. Well, it's late March now. So at least 2 months, it feels like. But the fun and excitement probably wouldn't have happened on that day necessarily. Might have happened before that if what is alleged is actually true. Again, we'll find out, I assume, more over the coming days. They're publicly traded organizations, so eventually we'll have to hear more about that if there was a material event that would affect their stock price. So that's the good news, is we will find out more, I assume, for better or worse. But kind of where I was going with it is what you're looking for is indicators of compromise, suspicious login. So what's a suspicious login, right? First, I'd look for anything, and priority matters, right? Your admins, your VIPs that have extra usage rights, your admins that have extra users rights, service accounts, anything along those lines. Those are the areas that I'd focus priority-wise on. But then you're looking for things like impossible travel, right? I was in New York. Now I'm opening something in, Western China, maybe within an hour of each other, right? Or somewhere else, right? You can let your mind kind of wander as far as how varied that can get. I'm looking for anonymous IP logins, right? If these attackers, they're going to try to cover their trails, they're going to be using VPNs or some other kind of anonymous IPs. At least it's not unusual to see that. You're also going to see, now this is something that you may not see on the logins, but something you may want to be looking for is any install rules on Outlook. If you see any accounts, this is more on the Azure or Google side. Any kind of rules, forwarding rules, I'd be looking for right now. But back within the Okta logs, I'd also look for, I don't know if everyone's familiar with Golden SAML. Golden SAML was found by CyberArk, cybersecurity company CyberArk, a couple of years back. So attackers will forge kind of SAML responses. So if you're seeing kind of things are failing or there's, don't just look past those kind of errors. There might be an indicator of something else more severe going on. In this case, if folks could get straight through to Okta, don't know that Golden Attack or Golden SAML would be the issue as far as people just getting in and then trying to go further, right? So if I'm jumping into an environment, I'm maybe trying to fish some of the vendors or some of the partners of that company at this point. I'm trying to set up communication and monitoring, some breadcrumbs for me to be able to kind of find out later what's going on. So those are those Outlook rules I mentioned. So those are some of the things I think I'd be looking for in these logs and kind of how I'd be treating this. I'd treat it as if it was serious and it was real. Like, I'll tell you that, despite, Okta saying to the contrary. Maybe that'll be the same, or maybe it'll change, who knows. but you need to know your environment, especially your tool, really well. This is a great opportunity. The final thing is really and truly ATO, account takeover type protection. This should be happening outside. Great if an IAM provider provides it, that's fantastic, but should be looking at tools that provide this outside of this, because it's the fox kind of watching the hen house, right? They're the ones, there's no check and balance if they're also the ATO protection and they're responsible for all MFA and identity access provisioning. So this is what I'd recommend also is you're looking for tools in your cybersecurity stack that'll address this kind of attack vector of account takeover. So if you don't have it, I recommend you go get it. Any other kind of questions you had for me today, Brendan?
Yeah, so maybe to end off, like to your point about having the fox watching the hen house. I love that, by the way. How can email security play into that as another layer?
There are tools out there that, I mean, I'm not gonna hide it. The one I'm working for does, but others do as well. Not to be too biased here. Within email security, part of that is looking at, hey, is my brand being protected? Did you kind of monitor for that east-west kind of traffic, right? In most segs, it's north-south, right? Did it come externally and will we remediate it? But if you're at mailbox level, they also want to see that you're protecting inter-office communication, something that's coming in from a vector that's east-west in your organization, if that makes sense. That's an appropriate analogy. So account takeover is the logical next step. It's not only to monitor the email, but monitor the account that's sending the email. So ours does that. Others do that. Definitely recommend exploring that feature. I think it's going to be critical over the coming years.
So just to clarify, like your email security provider should also have some kind of account takeover baked in as another layer of security.
Yeah, any kind of monitor. Any kind of modern email security is not only going to be watching kind of what emails are going across, but also what accounts are doing as they're about to send that email or drafting, or what are they sending externally after the fact. So are they looking for those Outlook rules I referenced, or the forwarding rules, right? That's an important thing to be able to protect your brand. So I think if companies don't have that, it's a missed opportunity to get a more complete kind of tool in the environment.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Stephen. Really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today on CyberSecurity Heroes.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. See you next time. That's a wrap for this episode of CyberSecurity Heroes. Practical and experiential knowledge on a day in the life of security heroes. Catch our next episode by subscribing or following through your favorite podcast platform. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, please leave a rating for the show. They really help a lot. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.